Hi guys.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Consistency Code podcast. We have a very special
Episode.
guest here,
Karina, hi.
Karina.
We're so excited to have her on today. We're fans, really big fans.
Yeah, it's funny because
Mm.
Karina and I go way back before our bodybuilding days, and now we're besties in the bodybuilding world. And it's like full circle moment.
Yeah. Was it,
Yeah.
when did
Let's see it.
What?
we meet? Was it the first time we met when you came to Optimize, or was it before? At the gym.
At the
Some
gym
forum.
in Kelowna,
Yeah.
World Gym.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, World Gym, or maybe we met like at Craft or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
How many years is that now?
I don't know, 4 years ago? 5 years ago?
5 years ago, probably. Yeah.
So it was like beginning of your bodybuilding journey for you.
Yeah.
This was your first show, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
4 years ago. 5 years. 4. 2022 was my first show. So, yeah, 4. Yeah.
That's so cute.
Days.
We love that.
Yeah. And Karina just competed 2 months ago. Yeah, about 2 months ago.
Flies by, wow.
I know, right? So, yeah, in today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Karina's prep and experience, discuss like different approaches to preps, because what we realized before starting this episode when we were talking about our own experiences is that we've all had such different experiences with prep, and no prep looks the same. Like, all of my preps have looked different, Karina's preps look different, Ruth's preps look different. So yeah, we're going to dive into that, and then
Deep dive. Yeah, we're gonna deep dive into all of that, and then we have our own, obviously, like takes on certain methods that coaches use that will work for some, won't work for others. But at the same time, we do see like a lot of in the industry, like, hey, blacklist certain protocols fully, but it does work for other people. So we're gonna speak about that too, and then you guys will hear, 3 different opinions, which is really good to have like multiple different sides to things too. And yeah, so if you want to start off by telling us who you are, going on into your season and so on, and whatever you want to feel like sharing too, like let us know who Karina is.
Totally. Well, thank you guys. I'm fans of you guys too. I love you guys. So yeah, I competed this year, but I'm 26, first of all, so I've been kind of like in the bodybuilding world for some years, but I feel like I've been in and out of it. Became really obsessed with bodybuilding as a fan when I was like 15. It's like watching Ashley Kay in her golden era, and I was like, that is what I want to be.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time we had a gym in my house, and I was just like, I'm training for the Olympia stage. Like, that's kind of how I felt when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
And that just kind of continued on when I was playing sports. I was secretly training for bodybuilding, even though I was playing hockey. And then I finally hired a coach in 2020, actually. And then I worked with them, Malice. I worked with them for a couple months, and that was when I first moved to Kelowna, actually. And I don't even know what I thought I was doing, hiring a coach and moving to a new city without a job. I could not afford to continue coaching. I could not afford to continue a prep, so that had to stop for a hot minute. And then, I feel like, Bella, you might get this a little bit, but I got sucked into the world of Kelowna and partying and growing up for a little bit.
yeah,
And, oh my gosh.
Kelowna summers, they're just different.
Kelowna
Like
is
a mini Miami.
Yeah, no, it literally feels like the Canadian version of Miami. Like,
Seriously.
that place was not the vibe for me. Like, I couldn't find a good circle of like friends, like-minded people, and I just kept like getting sucked into things that were not aligned with me, that I didn't want to do. And it put me like in a darker and darker place over the years went on, and then I was like, I gotta get out of here. So I moved back to Vancouver, and I moved back like end of 2023, and I started prep in January 2024 for the Van Open that year. I did that whole prep. It was a long prep, really extreme prep, with protocol-wise, and did not actually make it on stage. I got food poisoning or something like that one day out, like after I got my tan. And I was super depleted at that point. So when I did get sick, I was throwing up. It was really not good. ended up in the hospital for that one. And that experience was probably my worst, like, post-diet experience. Was not like a super positive experience, but the prep itself was a great experience in terms of like learning how to fucking work hard and grind, because I think you need that at least once.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could not imagine going through the whole prep and like putting your all into it and then the night before show day.
I think that's why it was a dagger, or why it was so hard for me afterwards. It was just like, it felt like all that like trenches work. Like I was in a different relationship at the time. We broke up during my prep. It was like just a lot. And then I rebounded really bad. I gained like 50 pounds within like 3 months post show. Like it was bad. It was really bad. It was every single day. And also my coach ghosted me and didn't reply to me for 3 weeks. And then
This goes to show how important having a like strong support system and network like post show is as well, because
For sure.
not just in your coach, but in everyone around you, because I was so ashamed. I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. Like I was hiding, like I would eat in private. Like it was very much so like a huge problem, and it didn't get better until I did like just accept that I needed help. And actually I told my friends about it, my family, like it became a thing where I was more open about it. And that's when things started to get better.
Yeah,
then,
so many people go. I'm glad you're sharing that, because so many people go through an experience like that and like they're just so scared to talk about it and like ashamed of it.
and anytime you tell someone, they're like, "Oh, it happened to me too." I'm like, "Okay, so no one was talking about this before."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I needed to take all of 2025 off, one, to get myself back to a healthy body composition, but also to grow. Because I was really small when I got down at the end of my prep in 2024. One thing I never stopped doing, even though I was going through this binging, was I never stopped training, and I actually got really strong during that period of time.
That is one positive of eating a shitload of food, is you will be so strong and you will pack on muscle, because the workouts are just like next level.
Yeah. I would never want to like technically bulk like that ever again.
No, I'm not saying go like eat whatever the hell you want whenever you
accidental
want. Like
bulk.
that, no.
But I basically had like a year and a half, I guess, of growing and not dieting. And then when I stopped binging, I lost like 30 pounds without trying at all. No cardio, just it started coming off because I was just eating normally, which was really good. And then I was able to start my prep in October of 2025 and competed this March. And it was, we'll get into it, but it was actually really easy and pretty smooth prep. Some more things into it, but yeah.
Easy and smooth, but also came with its own challenges.
Obstacles and challenges. And I was gonna do Toronto Pro qualifier, but I got injured, and I'm still dealing with a back injury, and it's getting a little better. Fingers crossed, I think we're on the ups, but we'll see.
We are in the up. We're gonna speak it into existence.
Manifest.
Yes.
Maybe Toronto, or maybe the Canadian Nationals in October. We'll see how things go, but I'm not in a rush to anything. Like, I really love bodybuilding. I love this lifestyle. I love the community. It just makes my heart happy. It makes me feel fulfilled. So it's like whenever that happens, it will happen when it's meant to.
Exactly.
If it's not until next year, I'll just be even better. So that's okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of us can relate to that too. Bodybuilding just like brings us a sense of peace and fulfillment and joy that like nothing else does, and it's hard to describe to someone who hasn't prepped or like gotten into bodybuilding or like is a part of the bodybuilding community, but truly it's like something so special. So regardless of whether you're prepping in your off season, like taking a step back, whatever it is, like everyone is for the most part super supportive. So
I think it shows a sense of, even if you're in your off season, it shows still like you do have a goal in mind. And when you have, as like a human being, like biologically, when you have something to work towards, it's always a positive thing, right? So I think that's what makes it really good too. And like you can't explain that feeling to somebody who isn't in that space, right? So, but it's still the most exciting thing, in my opinion. I don't know, because then I'm like sitting here being like 2027, I'm so excited, but everybody's like, it's a year away. I'm like, no. To you, it's the year. Yeah, to you
Can
it's
we
a year.
talk
I'm counting in
about,
weeks, babe.
yeah, can we talk about the importance of taking time
Oh,
off and
Yeah.
I
like
love it.
normalizing
Oh
time
my
away from
goodness.
stage? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Post a photo of my 2024 versus this year. Oh my goodness. I'm so
Dang,
happy I
dang.
did not make it on stage in
Yeah.
2024 because I actually think I would have been mortified. I looked so bad.
Yeah,
what? Everything happens for a reason. So like
exactly.
maybe just like it wasn't your
Like,
time
it
on
was meant to
certain
be, yeah.
days.
And you know
Yeah.
what? I'm not even gonna say no shade to my coach. Yes, shade to that coach because I don't know what the fuck we were doing there.
I'm sorry, that was my favorite part. Yeah.
Uh,
With all disrespect.
with all due respect,
Yeah.
what the fuck was that?
And honestly, sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need to like sit down and be like, what the fuck was that? You know what I mean? I think we've all had a situation like that, and I think it's a good thing. Like in different, it can be like on different levels, but I like you knowing that is a really big thing too, because then it's only up from here. It's literally only up from here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay,
Not
so
get worse.
now we have to fill everybody in. What the fuck was that?
What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know, even though like I have followed bodybuilding, like, I didn't really know too much about like what was okay, what was not okay, and I think there's like some flexibility in that from athlete to athlete. But I think I started. To be fair, I had a lot of weight to lose. I started my prep at I believe 63. I think that was where I started. My body composition has changed massively over the years, but I was I was a little fat, to be honest. And then we started, I think, only at like 1,800 calories in terms of, we didn't spend any time beforehand being like, hey, maybe we should try to like see what your maintenance is and do that. I was already doing like 60 minutes of walking on the treadmill a day.
So your starting protocols were already like
Not great, yeah.
on
And
the lower, yeah.
I think that was a big thing. And like, I think there is a responsibility for a coach to be honest with an athlete and be like, hey, we're not at a great starting point here. This is what I recommend. And that was never communicated to me.
And that is the
Yeah.
like one of the most important things
Yeah,
going
honesty.
into a prep or even like a lifestyle cut. Like you need to have a good foundation and starting point. And if you're not in a good starting point physically and mentally, then like it's not going to set you up well because you don't have a good solid foundation.
There's no point. Yeah.
I really wish you would have been honest with me because that would have made it could have changed the trajectory of how that whole year went. But we quickly got really down in food, up in cardio, because my steps started, I think, at like 10 or 12K. And then very quickly I think I started with 30-minute stairs every single day. And then food got lower and lower, cardio got higher and higher. And by the time it was like between 8 to 10 weeks out, was on, I want to say around 1,000 calories. I think like I had a high day that was 1,200 and then my low day was 1,000.
A high day of 1,200 calories is
And yeah, it was
diabolical.
And then I think I was already doing an hour on the stairs by that point. We had a calorie goal. I was doing a certain amount of calories and that's how long it would take me.
Yeah.
I think it was like 750 calories or something like that. Then as the weeks went on, like pretty soon, by the time I was like 7 or 8 weeks, I was like, food was down again, cardio was up again. And for close to 2 months, I think I was eating 750, 800 calories.
How many weeks out?
I have to go back and look at it because I got locked out of the Google Doc immediately when I left her.
Yeah.
Even though she hadn't replied to me for 3 weeks.
Crazy.
I was like 750 calories from when I was like 7 or 8 weeks out. And I also was doing like
Regardless of how many weeks out, like still.
But it was taking me around 2 hours to do my Stairmaster because at the end of prep it was getting your heart rate up on stairs.
You're that much more conditioned at the end of prep, so it becomes harder.
And I had steps too, so like I had to hit my step goals separately to my stairs. We were just doing that, and I had 0 days off. That's the thing. Like I had a training day off, but I didn't have any days off cardio.
Yeah.
That's a really big thing. I think
Legs were just cooked. And
done for.
I don't know why, but for some reason she thought that I responded better to fats and not carbs. So my fats stayed high my whole prep basically, and until like the end when they were average, but my carbs were basically 0. And I think that may have played a role into me losing more muscle because I really looked not good in my opinion.
When you deplete your muscles of glycogen for so long and like so aggressively, then
yeah.
It's bound to happen, yeah.
I don't think that that's the right call because we did not do this time around. And like when I did like my push at the end, I had really low fats and higher carbs, high-ish carbs, and I was responding great. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches have this fear of when a girl comes to them at a higher, like, I don't know, body fat or just weight in general, they're scared. So the only thing that you will like they will come to the conclusion of is let's start pushing now because since we don't have like a good foundation for the beginning of it. But the thing is also like we need to understand that 30 minutes of cardio a few times a week is not a lot. But the thing is if it's at 20 weeks out, you need to have room to move later on. And the only way to move is just higher cardio and lower food until you do end up at 600 calories and 2 hours of cardio because you didn't give yourself room to move around. And that's the most like insane thing a coach can do in my opinion is that kill you at the start. There's no point.
she had to also like, I think she's maybe scared of losing a client, but like,
Yeah.
because maybe her being honest would have made me left and like would have made me leave, and that would have been okay because she would have been doing the right thing. But I don't know, I think I would have stayed if she was to have been like, hey, I just want you to let you know, like, you have too much body fat to lose for you to get on stage and hit conditioning for this show. So if you want to do this show, like, you're not going to be conditioned, and I just want you to accept that. Or, in my opinion, I think we should start reverse dieting you, build up your food, try to maintain this leaner, like 20, 30 pounds down that you are right now, and let's build you back up, and let's try to do this show like a couple months later. Or
That,
even,
yeah,
or even
that
just
conversation.
an off season and tell you that I'm not ready, like you don't have the muscle you need. If you want to be successful, then let's do it. Let's go into a reverse diet and try for like a later round show.
Yeah.
That is so much more respectable than just telling an athlete, yep, okay, like we're, starting our prep like aggressive right out of the gate, like.
Yeah. But also,
No, that's a really good point.
the last 2 weeks, last 2 weeks of prep, she goes, okay, let's put in Nolvadex, T3, Anavar, and I was still taking Clen. And it was random the last 2 weeks of prep as if that was going to do anything.
Like, yeah, a lot of the things, like Anavar is not going to start working in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're not going to see
Yeah.
really
If anything, like in 2 weeks, you should be pulling compounds out.
Yeah,
Like,
that's when we start
there's
removing.
any stressors and inflammation on the
Yeah.
body, and like throwing things in there, Hail Mary, hoping like they stick,
Literally.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a communication piece of like,
Yeah.
I even like every week I would send my check-in, I get a response. If I had follow-up questions, I probably wasn't going to hear back until the following Monday. And then in peak week, 2 weeks out, I had questions, I had things, and I was really stressed because I wasn't sure if she was ever going to reply.
Yeah.
And then obviously after the show, then she fell off the face of the earth. But yeah.
And that's the thing. Coaches need to understand that at the end of the day, like especially bodybuilding coaches, like that is your job, right? Like your job is to answer like within 24. I'll give you a grace period of 48, but if somebody's 2 weeks out, you don't get 48. I'm so sorry. Like there's time and place.
Responsibilities as a prep coach, and not showing up for your client like that is like.
No.
It's like you're not showing up for your day job. Like if you have a 9 to 5, are you just not going to show up? Like that's what it is.
But yeah, I just want to say that I am so glad that you have given bodybuilding another shot and you didn't just call it quits after that horrible experience, because that is like one of the sad things that I see all the time in the bodybuilding industry is like people do have these terrible preps, like they end up with shitty coaches because there's no like test exam you have to write in order to become a bodybuilding coach, like anybody and their mom can become a coach, and so people end up with these shitty coaches like who lack knowledge, lack care, and then just write off bodybuilding as a whole because they had such a horrible experience. So
lack care
how it should be, and it gives bodybuilding a bad rep in some cases, but truly it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, every
lacking
is going to look different. Sometimes you do have to push to extremes, don't get me wrong, but definitely not anything that.
Because I think it was from the get-go. And I think it's more dangerous to have a coach who lacks care rather than knowledge, in my opinion, because if a coach does care, they'll take that time to, build that knowledge up. But when care is missing, it's all going to go to shit. And I think the biggest thing that Karina said that I'm so with is the honesty part in the beginning. And I think when I told you like we did have very similar like experiences like from coaches from the start. I think I started to prep in February. Let's say like it was in 2025. I started to prep in February. I was 163, right? I'm near that right now, but totally different like body compositions and for totally different reasons. Cause then I was going through a binge cycle to get up to that, right? So it's obviously your body's under stress compared to you building up to a certain weight. So I started prep in February. The show I was gonna do was in the end of May. But the thing is, since I didn't have a good prime phase in the beginning, how are you going to get all that body fat off and be in proper conditioning for a show in May? So when I would stress like, hey, I don't,
February to May?
it was end of mid January, I want to say, but still, like, let's just say Feb, like, it was just a no go. And so I was like, hey, I want to move shows. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to do a May show. And so when your coach starts arguing, like, no, like, we're going to make it work, that's when, like, you should be like, okay, red flags are starting to arise. But there's a trust the process also part to it. So I think when coaches just lack that care, it's very dangerous to people like leaving the sport too because of that experience. Because I could have left. I could have been like, "Hey, I'm done with it," and you could have been like, "This is enough," and left. But I think also trusting a new person to take over everything else afterwards is such a big thing.
Yeah. It's hard to find that person afterwards. I think that's why I overcorrected.
Seriously.
But that's crazy to try to get you stage lean in that short of a time.
Don't like I such a PTSD moment, but the like I didn't want to trust another coach. I was like, I'm done. Honestly, there's no I've had back to back like shitty experiences. I think enough's enough. And then my most recent coach was in my DMs after the show that I did where I was traumatized. So I felt like it was like a calling because I saw him at that show, and then it was just like 2 weeks after I cleaned up my tears and I joined him, and life is
This
good.
is the show that
Rainbows.
Ruth and I met at, by the
Yeah.
way.
The show
TNT.
had the scary coach that we hate.
That we actually that I still see to this day. And if you're listening, you know who I'm saying, sir. I know you know
You
me.
said you blasted him?
Yeah, no, that one like to this day, like I'll forever I don't hold grudge. Like I have my first ever coach that things did go wrong, but I still have a very good relationship with him because it was just a lack of communication, understanding on certain things. But then the coach that will drag through the mud is somebody that genuinely did not give a shit, and it showed.
It's
There's levels to this shit.
I think
Yeah, Ruth, I would say needed just a little more conditioning.
It's had 10 pounds actually. Bella, don't try and sweet talk this one. It needed to be a 10-pound loss. But we did that for the next show, which was good. But it shows like discrepancies were there and corrections were made. But if a coach, and disclaimer, if a coach does need to be dragged through the mud to help others, then do so.
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean,
Help others.
yeah. I feel like if they showed that they don't care and that they're not necessarily a good person, then it's 100% like do it up. I think like in the situation from this year, I'm like I would never drag that person through the mud because I think they're a great person, but just not
And that's what I mean, yeah.
just maybe not the person that I'll turn pro with.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay too. You know, we all move on from coaches at some point. It's okay to like, you know, graduate from one coach and like go to
Exactly.
want to try something different. And, you know, maybe as you move up in the bodybuilding leagues as well, then you just have different needs and requirements as an athlete. So totally fine. I mean, like the best in the world are switching coaches as well.
You need to be selfish in that sense too,
Yeah.
right? Because you're paying these people at the end of the day, and like you need to be where you should be, rather than like loyalty at a certain point needs to be cut out of the equation, unless you're just coach hopping just for the sake of it. That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens too. I think if people just have too much of an ego, right?
Jump ship.
They think they're ahead of where they're at, and then they'll keep coach hopping until their ego eventually gets checked really hard, and they're forced to face the fact that it's a them problem.
And you're ruining relationships with that too, you know?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so important to like give your coach a shot at learning your body and how it responds to different protocols and going through an entire year, every single phase with them so that they can learn everything about you. And obviously results aren't going to happen overnight. So coach hopping and bouncing around is just like,
It's a no-go.
you're digging yourself your own hole at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to actually follow the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think sometimes people
It's a
they
chance.
actually weren't following the plan too. Because I've heard that, like, I know girls on prep and whatnot, and I'm talking to them, and they're like, "Yeah, but I've been doing this and this and this and this," and I'm like, "Okay, so you're not actually fucking following the plan.
Yeah.
You have to give it a shot,
Yeah.
an honest shot, right?
It's not working. You're not working, actually."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. And yeah, there's a point of like trusting the process, but then also like knowing your body and knowing what works best for you, which I think
Mhm.
was a big thing for you, Karina, in your last prep, most recent prep. So we can dive into that a little bit. Like, what would you say is the biggest difference that you noticed in this past prep versus the one that you just talked about 2 years ago?
Yeah. So this prep, the coach I worked with, I just has a very different approach, I would say, to a lot of bodybuilding coaches in terms of the way he programs. For one, his training programs, he's very low volume with things. And like I was doing 2 days on, 1 day off, and I just had like two lower workouts, two upper workouts. So very like I'd say a little bit too minimal for my liking, a little bit too low on the volume side, but that's his approach. And also, he is definitely like minimal when it comes to like pushing cardio and wants you to be eating. He wants you to be eating the most you possibly can. And he also has like a slightly lower protein approach, which I found interesting. I actually way prefer eating more protein, but my
Me
protein
too.
was less than 1 gram per pound of body weight.
Less than, wow.
Like 0.8?
Slightly less, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did like request more. And he wasn't against that. He just personally prefers that approach, and it's interesting. He likes a higher carb approach for sure, lower fat. And yeah, he also is like I would say anti anabolics for females, bikini for.
Like fully, like all anabolics or like specific kinds?
I would say. I have heard him say that he doesn't think that anabolics have a place in bikini at all, which is it's a very opinionated statement for sure.
Mhm.
One that like to me on the pro level, I disagree with that. I think that it 100% is necessary if you want to be a top pro, if you want to compete amongst those women, especially like throughout a season. I don't think people realize how big and dense these girls are. Like they are not small.
I,
And
yeah, I agree with you
yeah,
100%. Yeah, they
yeah.
definitely have a time and a place, not only on the top pro level stage, but even like even in the amateur ranks, like
Like let's just be honest. Like they if you're standing next to those girls on stage, you're gonna fucking be dwarfed by people who are on gear like you are, and that's just is a part of bodybuilding, and that's why we also have natural bodybuilding. That's why we have natural pro qualifiers, because it's like it would be unfair to say that those people can equally compete against each other and compete on an even playing field, because it's not.
yeah,
Drugs,
exactly.
drugs work.
That was a big question I got last year was Bella, like, why are
Why
you
are you
doing
competing on
show
an
for
open
shows?
stage?
Like, if you're natural, like, isn't that like super unfair to you? Like, yeah, those girls have an advantage using compounds that I am not, but I mean, ultimately, I'm making the choice to go out there and see where I stand with those girls. But yeah, I got smoked at the Open National show that I did.
But
Not
you
to
got to
like,
see how you compared. Like
yeah, I just
you
wanted to see
see
where I
that.
stood,
Yeah.
and I got my answer. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but then
it's like a completely
that
different
probably
ballgame.
that probably played a role in you deciding to like have a growth season the length that you're choosing, right? Because you're like, the next time I go on stage, I want to stand next to these people. You know what I mean?
For sure. I'm like, I never want to be humbled like that again in my life. So, yeah, I'm taking the necessary time off to bring the improvements that I need to.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you
like,
Yeah.
already see that it's making a big difference, even though you're still natty. Like you're putting that work in, and it shows clearly. Yeah, that was such a side note.
yeah, yeah. My biggest fear is like competing again and looking the exact same as I did the last time I competed. So, yeah, I will not be getting up there until I have like 5 more pounds of muscle on me, I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
going to.
it is a very like opinionated take, obviously, but I think also like he'd be really good like coaching natural girls too. That like if that's like, well, because there are coaches who only coach natural girls, like whatever the case might be, which is not an issue at all. But I think it's just also for somebody who does want to go into the open stream, it might be a disadvantage to you or to others because hey, I'm open to taking certain compounds and this, but then if your coach is on the same boat, I think it also like might cause a little bit of disconnect in that aspect too, right?
I think
Yeah.
that that's really important that you find a coach that lines up with you and what the trajectory that you want to go in the sport and what that looks like. Because if you have different opinions on your philosophy, you're just gonna butt heads. It's not gonna work. I think that we didn't necessarily have opposite philosophies, because I actually think that the beginning of the prep was going really nice and smoothly. Things were moving. The one thing I'll say about this coach that I had was that he is like the most caring person, an amazing human being, and he's very smart. This man is constantly learning, constantly in his books. Like he's very wise. And I am actually very grateful that I got this experience this time, because I felt like I had someone with me my entire prep. We just butted heads sometimes on what approach I should be taking. And I was worried about hitting conditioning, and because I was so far off in 2024. And I was probably a little annoying about it. But what ended up happening as the prep went on, I kept pushing for more intense protocols, and he kind of kept holding me back on it. And eventually I did start changing some things on my own. I started eating less food. I started doing more cardio. And I told him a couple times. I didn't tell him the extent of it, to be honest. And he was not happy with me the times where I did those things. So I kind of just started hiding it. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to push and kind of do my own thing. And same even when we were peaking for the show, I wasn't eating as much as he wanted me to, because I was looking softer by the day, and I didn't need to look softer. I needed to look harder. And it just kind of felt like even though he was there with me, and like it was nice emotionally to have that support, I was kind of feeling like I was doing things on my own, making decisions on my own, and that was not a good feeling.
That adds a whole nother layer of stress that you
That's
shouldn't
going to show on your body, most likely.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you hire a coach to coach you, right? Like that's their job. And the last thing that you want to be trying to manage yourself is your own protocols and like how you're looking. Like you should be able to just completely hand that off to your coach and trust that they are going to bring you in at your best. And so I can only imagine the stress also, because you want to be a good client, right? And a good client follows protocols, does what your coach says. But yeah, there comes a point where you know your body, you know the standard and the bikini criteria that needs to be hit on show day, and being realistic with yourself is important too. Like, okay, we have like T-4 weeks and there's no way that I'm gonna be ready.
Yeah.
Unless I make this change.
And there was like this, I don't think it wasn't a very big show. And I knew I knew Sarah was going to come in super dense and super shredded, and she was going to look great. And she did. And so I was like, okay, if I need to stand next to this girl, I need to be both of those things also.
Yes. Yes.
Not like saying like, oh, I need to like specifically compare my physique to hers, like, and try to look like that.
No, you guys have completely different looks and completely different structure.
And like I was going into the show knowing that I wasn't using anabolics, so I needed to find a way to like still look full but also be shredded, which to me in my head that meant getting ready early. But I wasn't, so it was kind of like,
when you don't have anabolics in play to like give you that harder look, like the best thing you can do is come in more conditioned.
Yes, because then you're still gonna compare well, and you can play with fullness when you're lean enough. You cannot if you're not lean enough.
No,
You're just gonna look
not peak an under conditioned physique.
Yeah.
It makes it worse.
And I was like, we're not doing this. He was like trying to push carbs for me, and I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. It's always funny to me when I see girls who are not conditioned enough. It doesn't normally happen in the CPA, but like often in WNBF.
All their rock and rice games.
Yeah, girls are like, oh, like I'm carb loading, time to carb load. And they still have like 10 or 15 pounds to lose before
I think
properly conditioned. Your body's not going to respond to a carb load the same way it would if you were 10 pounds leaner, you know? So yeah.
I'm always a fan of like listen to your coach and finish it off fully, and that's what like I'll stand by. But there's situations like this where it's like you can't do that. I'm so sorry. And because you do at the end of the day, like you're a bikini girl, like, you know the criteria, and certain shows go for certain things. So it needs to be like a time and place where you need to be like, hey, like I have to take the reins on this, as shitty as it is, because I need to show up a certain way for myself, because you did also prep for 20 plus weeks, whatever the case might have been. But then also on the same topic of like, not saying you, but the whole carb bloating thing, I think we've been conditioned, not I think, I know, we've been conditioned to this rhetoric of we need to be eating high amounts of food leading up to show, whether it be carbs, fats, whatever.
You don't.
But yeah, we don't. Like, we've been so, especially on show day or night before, and it's such a interesting thing to watch around you, because if you're the odd one out that's not doing that, then it's like you just didn't prep properly, or you just didn't do this. I'm me and Bella side by side. She can eat a shit ton of food leading up to show. I need to keep as tight as I can with low food come show day, because I'll spill. Right. So it all depends. And I think we just need to take that time to kind of sit down with ourselves. If you're not eating 300 grams of carbs the night before show, you're not going to die. I promise you might show up amazing, actually.
It might be similar in that regard, because I think the strength for the two of us is our shape.
Yeah.
And if you ruin our waistline, you ruin our physique.
You're cooked.
Like, your
Like, I'm
whole
so
body
cooked.
is ruined at that point, because it's like,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of your physique, is that you look like a little caricature, right?
Yeah, like
But I think for us, like, we'll always look somewhat bubbly because of our shape. Where like flatness isn't going to be like, it could be a problem, but it isn't going to be as much of a problem as if someone doesn't have crazy shape. And if you don't have crazy shape and then you're also flat, you're not going to look good, right? So that needs to be taken into account. But
I was getting full off of
people,
nothing.
like, their insulin response, the way their body responds to it is like positive to that food.
Like, come show day, I don't know what you did during show day, but I had one meal in between prejudging and finals, because like prejudging was very early for me, but I think I ate raspberries and some rice cakes, like 2 rice cakes, maybe 3.
Yeah,
Like, that's nothing.
I had 100 grams of cream of rice.
See what I mean? Like, if I did that, I'd be fucked.
I'm stressed immediately.
I'd be fucked.
No, I woke up, I had a black coffee.
Yeah, me too.
Like espresso, and like double espresso, and then I had like a few teeny sips of water, and I think I had honey and salt. Like prejudging, like that's it. And then
that's it.
And then after prejudging, I felt super like I was gonna pass out, to be honest, because I barely drink water the day before. I probably had like 1.5 liters of water the day before, and then show day I was just taking tiny sips, and then
just raw dogging it that day. I'm so sorry.
My body responded really well to steak throughout my prep, better than chicken. So after prejudging, we had a little bit of steak, and I had a little bit of rice. It was an okay amount, maybe like 80 grams, something like that. Obviously not a ton, but it was something. And we had more honey, and I had almond butter, because that also always digested super well. And then, but backstage, Eric was like, have rice cakes and honey, and I was like, no. He literally said no.
You're just fighting backstage. No.
Yes. Said no. I was like, I'll have honey and salt if you want.
I love it.
Because I just was like, my tummy was already feeling like, the only nerves I was experiencing was like, it made my tummy feel a little crampy, and I was like, no, I'm not going to put anything in here that's going to make me feel like I can't, Yeah. But then after the show, I felt like I was going to die. We went out to eat, and then we sat down. I think I had like a bite of bread, and then I realized, I was like, I'm gonna die. I was like, I'm gonna pass out and I'm gonna die. And then I could not eat anything. Like, I just drank like a whole carafe of water, and then I still felt terrible. So we went and got me Pedialyte, and I had drank Pedialyte, and then when we got home later on, a couple hours later, I was able to eat.
You were just so depleted, like your whole digestive system was just like in shutdown mode.
I was just so dehydrated, I think.
Yeah.
And like the whole day just came on to me at once, because I was just like holding it together all day, right? Like, you're there to perform, and then it all came down, and I was like, whoa, I'm not well. Yeah. I think, it would have been different if I could have eaten and drank more leading up, but it was just what was necessary.
Exactly. Well, it goes to show the importance of coming in ready, and like, I think not to throw shade at like your last coach by any means, but like a good coach will tell you if you're not going to be ready during your prep. They'll say, hey, look, like, I don't think we're going to be ready for the show we were originally planning on doing, and in your best interest, I think we should like push it off and like do another show, and then that way you don't end up in the situation where
Exactly.
you're like having to go to those extreme measures.
Yeah. They're like the little details matter, and I think I'm not really sure how other coaches do it, but I know like currently it's like if I am sending a check-in, like I'm not just getting a protocol update, like it's very in depth, like my posing. That was the thing, like my coach never adjusted my posing ever. And I was like, dude, if you see something in the check-in that's off, like point it out. Like don't just like let it go on and on.
Yeah, that's also their job as a coach. Yeah, is to like educate themselves so that they can
Yeah. Or
correct
if
and
you fix it, make a comment, be like, hey, I think you need to fix this. Like talk to your posing coach about it. You know what
for
I mean?
sure. Yeah.
The details really matter, and like I'm type A, so I want my coach to like be all up in my business like that, to be like this, how's this and this, like I
Me
want
too.
them to have
Yeah.
my hands in everything so that I don't feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
think
mean?
we all like the harder approach from a
Yeah.
coach to like tell me how it is. Be so fucking straight up with me. Like don't hold anything back. Like if I need to go do an hour and a half of cardio and eat 1,200 calories like for a week or whatever it is to deplete, like so be it. Like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do what I need to do. Like don't hold back.
Yeah, and that's so on point because that differentiates like your whole prep, your mindset, and also your previous coaches can be a lot different. Like I came from a very much let's take a more chill approach. We don't need to be doing all of this. We need to be eating more food, but sometimes you don't need more food. I'm so sorry. Sometimes you gotta be hungry. You gotta starve a bit. But
Yeah.
um yeah, going from that to like having a coach that's like, hey, like how like the one question I remember, which gives me trauma to this day, was how bad do you want it? And I was like, pretty bad. When I tell you we tanked everything and we showed up, and that's sometimes that's what you need,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you need to know like we need to step on it now or we're not gonna be ready. I signed up for my show, my second show 1 week out because we wanted to make sure that like, hey, we want to and we're ready.
Yeah.
And then a week out, I was like, hey, let's sign up. We're all good to go. And not signing up 2 months ahead, then you're forcing yourself into the show because you paid for everything.
Yeah. I think I signed up 3 weeks out, and Eric was like, wait, you didn't sign up for the show yet? And I was like, no.
Like, you gotta know. I'm so sorry, bestie. We gotta know.
Yeah, I think the prices for registration go up like a week out or something. So like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
holding off until that very last like
Yeah.
date.
Until penalties start hitting, I'm gonna hold off.
Yeah.
It's very important. And I'm glad that you're at the space where you know, like, you know what you want and you know what you need. And I think it's very important that you went through this now rather than later because if you were such a at a different spot and you know, like you're in the pro league and then something like this happens, I think it would hit you harder than it would now. So learning about what you want in a coach is very important early on. And then what I did want to ask you was you did say like in your first prep before that, was it after your first prep or before that you went through the binging cycle?
To be honest, I've dealt with binge eating disorder since I was a child, like super young. When my parents got divorced, it was like it became this thing when I was super young, and I actually was forced to go to therapy, like court mandated, because my parents had a really violent divorce, and like I was actually diagnosed with binge eating disorder through that when I was like 9, like when I was super young. But it became something that like I was aware of when I was super young, and that I was trying not to do, but would always end up happening. Like growing up, like I would like harbor and eat like boxes of cereal or like anything I could get, like ice cream bars. Like that's what I remember, like from when I was like maybe 10, like stealing a box of ice cream bars and eating all of them. But it wasn't like a little kid just eating sweets. It was like a stress response, like where I would feel panicked about something, and I like the only solution would be to eat everything. And that continued on my whole adolescence, teenage years. I don't think I ever really faced it fully until after my prep in 2024. So I think that's kind of like, because that was like the longest time I went without that happening. Where I was like able to lock in and like nothing happened. And then after my prep, everything came crashing down. And it was.
And that's what I wanted to visit was when you got to the point where you had to confront it head on. I want to know like kind of what was different that helped you because I don't want to say I don't I personally don't believe that binge eating can be solved to like 100% and like whatever, because it is something that is psychologically ingrained in you after a certain point. Because if it started, especially at like 8, like you were a kid and so on. But I think it can be, handled to an extent where that's not a response that you get from anything,
Yeah.
right? So what I want to know is what helped you from like confronting it to now, and what you think, is a if you took like any approach that was, I don't want to say unethical, but like not normal for others, like whatever, like what helped you?
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing that's important if you're going through a period of time where you are binging is that you stop hiding it. I think that's the biggest thing, is finding your own support system and leaning into it. It might not be the people you think in your life, because sometimes people are judgmental, but like finding those people, whether it is your family, your partner, your friends, like for me, it was a combination of things that you can honestly open up to and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. Almost like having, I hate using the word accountability for it, but it's like just like having someone to lean on and talk to about it. But then also, I do feel like I went to therapy for it. I went through my doctor having a process. They actually prescribed me an antidepressant, Wellbutrin, at first. Did not work for me. I went off of it pretty fast. But I went to see a therapist that specializes in eating disorders, and it became like a root cause talk where it's like, let's talk about all of the things in your life that have led you to this point. And it was honestly like very like soul crushing, and like it's emotional, right? Like that stuff, there's a root
We're
cause, and
bringing
it's
everything up,
you
and
bring
like
everything, like it
life,
makes me feel like
yeah,
talking about it now, where it's like I'm really grateful that I was able to do that. And I still think that it's something I would like to continue going to therapy for.
Mhm.
Therapy is just good for people in general, I think. You need to talk about your shit that you have going on, because it's going to come out some way or another. That was probably a really big thing, but I was still like struggling with moments, and I had been going back and forth. I had gotten better, but was still a huge struggle for me from like, I finished prep, like say July 2024, all the way up until like March of the next year. It was still like something I was struggling with. And that's when I like finally like went to my doctor, because I had been going back and forth about if I wanted to see if I could be a good candidate for like a GLP drug. And I got on the phone with this male doctor, and I was like, hey, like I laid it out to him, like I've been dealing with this, like I have diagnosed binge eating disorder, like it's not something that I'm like, oh, I might have this. I told him I had gained, I think I got all the way up to like 180, which was crazy for me.
and
Um,
you're how tall? Like 5'5".
5'5". Yeah. It was like maybe 182, and I was like, I was like, I'm in prison. I feel like I'm in like the prison of my own mind. Like I told him honestly, I was like, I'm feeling suicidal, and I've never felt like this in my life. And I'm doing all of these things. I have the knowledge to eat right and train and do all these things, and I just cannot get out of this. And like,
Yeah.
I was like, I literally was like, I need help. And I felt helpless, to be honest. Like it was that, and he was so casual about it. He was like, oh, like you're the perfect candidate for this, actually. You should do this. And I was like, oh, and I was expecting to have to fight for it, and I did not at all, which might be a whole other topic, because I don't think doctors should prescribe it that easily.
Yeah, should not be handed out like candy, but
Yes.
that's another story.
But I do think that I was the perfect candidate for it.
Yes.
And I was on it for a couple of months. Started at a low dose, went a little bit up, and yeah, I immediately started losing weight, and immediately like stopped binging. Like I actually don't think I binged once after starting the drug, like the entire time I was on it. Like nothing, I had no like relapses, no moments of weakness. Like it genuinely stopped all of that. And it was like more than just a food thing, because for me it let me be present in my everyday life. I no longer was thinking and panicking about food 24/7 in my brain. Like I would be having a conversation with a friend, and in my head I'd be like thinking about like the food I wanted to eat or like was going to eat later.
Mhm.
It was like a always in my brain, really loud thing, and it was gone immediately. So
Yeah.
like they work super super well, and I don't want to say that's the only thing that helped me, because it wasn't. I think that
The combination.
the combination was extremely important, especially the
Yeah.
support system and therapy. Everything was important, but
Yeah, and it's not like you went from like A to Z and just like immediately
just
hopped on
immediately,
a
it was the
GLP.
last
Like
resort, really.
it was a last resort. You already had like foundations in place. Like you already had a lot of other coping mechanisms. You already are knowledgeable on nutrition. You're working out. Like it's not like you're sitting on your ass like all day. And so, yeah, like I think like your doctor said, you're a perfect candidate, and it brought you out of this deep hole, which is so incredible. And like it's amazing that we have these things available to us now to
Scary though.
out of that
Yeah.
position.
It's it's a really big fear thing for a lot of people because it has been ingrained in our heads that hey, you need to look a certain way and come from a certain background to use any form of GLPs. And to an extent that is true. I don't think we've gone also to the point where it's so normalized for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it is becoming a dangerous thing for for people who don't need it. But
Mm-hmm. I know.
at a certain point, yeah, at a certain point, we also need to understand that there is a place for GLPs in people's lives when they're going through things like this. So even if, let's say, like not, you're not in the realm of obesity, but the thing is, it feels like war in your head, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's so back and forth 24/7 that you're not able to pour yourself into other things because you're so consumed by, and it is a really big problem for a lot of people, and we've ruled it out to the point where it's like let's use therapy and let's use everything else but GLPs, but we need to sit back and understand, scientifically too, it does have a place to help people to a certain extent. And the only difference is when I involved GLPs, it was not prescribed and it was not in the route of, hey, let's go through um, doctors. As when I tried that, I think it went left and I just never wanted to go back and do it because at a
Oh,
certain point, you do also feel shame, like involving somebody else. And when you're shut down at a certain point, it's like, why should I try again? So when I know that you said that you like, it didn't work as well as it did for other things for you when it comes to Bretta. But when which is understandable if you use like different things and like compare them, but the only one I was introduced to was Bretta.
mm-hmm.
And when I did use it, it impacted my life in such a big way to the point where I genuinely was not running around thinking about food, right?
Yeah.
It feels like you are free, like, you know what I mean, to do other things. And it put me to the point where my first reverse for my show was shitty. It was bad. I gained again 50 pounds in a few months and it was not cute at all, and I just didn't want to repeat that. So when Retta was involved post show, which a lot of people are against, and they just use it for prep, which is fine, but post show, that was my biggest help. And
Mm.
the reason why I ended up working, when I even got off of it, I worked to keep that same mindset and so on, and involved other things to keep me from that binge cycle post show. I feel like I have better tools now because I used things that would help me and didn't listen to those who were like, GLPs, absolutely not. Immediately no.
There is an aspect to what you know about your body, and you can't just listen to like someone's random Instagram reel that's just trying to get traction about it. You know what I
Like,
mean? Like I think GLPs often are really valuable for bodybuilders, like it is, and not like the general population person who just wants to lose a little bit of weight. That is the worst candidate for a GLP in my opinion. I mean,
And
people
that's
really want
where the issue is in today's society with GLPs, right? It's like doctors
to
are
move myself
giving
back.
them
So
out like
sorry.
candy to like everyone and their mom and their aunt and their dog
the dog.
Yeah.
when they don't have a nutrition plan in place, when they aren't being consistent with their workouts, when they have like zero knowledge when it comes to nutrition other than like trying to eat in a calorie deficit. Meanwhile, they're like snacking on almonds.
Yeah.
It
Like
doesn't work.
Yeah.
yeah, that's when you're setting yourself up for disaster, quite honestly, because if you hop on a GLP-1 with zero nutrition foundation, you're going to end up starving yourself. you're going to end up lacking essential nutrients because you're just not eating. And then eventually you're going to stop taking the drug and you're going to gain all the weight back because you don't have those foundations in place and knowledge and habits and skills to be able to keep the weight off. So, and then you just like end up in this yo-yo cycle, and it's honestly like incredibly dangerous. But
Yeah.
yeah, in your
I
guys' situation, like time
mhm.
and a place, like it was
Time and
a
place.
very effective tool for you. And
It's
so, yeah.
there's no realistic like harm in using it when it's needed to, when you look at it from a health standpoint too, but also I think where people tie it in when like, it is of use to bodybuilders, but when people tie it into if you're not feeling the hunger, like you're not working hard enough, and that's what bodybuilding is about. I'm so sorry, you can shove this somewhere I can't see it. Bodybuilding is not based on suffering. Let's get that whole point out of it. Like it's so stupid. I'm like sorry, but when you get on stage, I don't think a judge is asking you
Who said
how many times did you cry this prep?
Yeah, well, that's the
How
thing.
many times?
This is glamorized, the fact that like who can have
Like
like the most traumatic prep, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
whereas
it's not how.
you're coming out of your prep feeling like you need to like change your whole entire life and like your head's all fucked up, your body's all fucked up. Like that's not how you have longevity in the sport. And that's like
In fact, it's the
that
opposite.
something that I'm trying to remind myself of too, because when I had to pull out of this prep, or I feel like I'm still like reverse dieting, whatever, but I it became like not just about my injury. I was starting to have these like bad internal feelings about bodybuilding again, where I was like, I don't want to go train, like I don't want to do my cardio, I don't want to follow my meal plan. And like that there's a problem when you start to feel those things. You know what I mean? Where you're like, I need to take a step back here, touch grass, and I don't need to forego everything. I just need to change my approach a little bit. So for me, that meant I'm more so like I'm on a meal plan, but I'm tracking macros a little bit more. I'm like doing more things with my friends and family. Like I have to like had to get out of that monotonous day to day for a second, where it's
Me
like
too, yeah.
yeah, where I was like starting to resent it a little bit, and I didn't want to lean harder into that and start hating it. And
Yeah, and the resentment just builds and builds, and then you're like, fuck
yeah,
this, I'm completely done with it. Like, I never want to, like, step foot in a gym or, like, weigh out a gram of food again in my
yeah,
life.
because it doesn't get better; it gets worse.
No.
Like when that feeling starts to like brew,
Mhm.
and if you're also dealing with other challenges, it just gets worse and worse. And like I'm
Hmm.
so happy that I fucking stopped my prep, because
Yeah.
I know that I'll be able to go back into it when I'm ready, and I'm not going to hate it, and I still have my routine, and I'm happy now. And I'm
And
not.
that's the most important thing. Yeah, taking a step back really is two steps forward
Yeah.
in most cases. Oh my gosh, there's window cleaners outside my
You're so dead. Wave to them.
Thanks.
Wave to them. Stay clean.
Oh my
There's
god.
yeah, just differentiate hard, sacrifice, and suffering. I think those are very different things. And when people pair hard with suffering, you've lost your damn mind. And
Hmm.
honestly, if I don't want to, I'm so sorry, but if I don't want to feel, the starving feeling before bed, I will be taking Bretta, and you can argue with your mother about that. So sorry,
For me, like
I'm not doing
I'm
it.
still taking Retta because didn't take semaglutide at all during my prep. I wasn't even taking Retta for half of it. I started it like partway through it,
Yeah,
and I do think that like there's one thing where like pharmacy grade shit will always be better, because to me like I've had Retta from multiple different sources. I'm so sorry, like it just doesn't do much for me, but I'm choosing to.
after the real shit.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's good because like I'm getting it like from a good source, like
Yeah,
my knowledge. But like I feel like I feel okay. I feel like I've changed so many of my habits over time, and like from that period of time where I was on semaglutide, where it's like I actually think it fixed my brain because I don't have those same panicked thoughts anymore. But I do think that there is an aspect of like it does help your insulin sensitivity, and that I feel like is probably helping me when it comes to my reverse and staying a lot leaner this time, because I
There's
haven't been
so many
training.
benefits that it offers, like,
Yeah,
aside from just like lowering food noise and lowering hunger and
yeah,
slowing down gastric emptying. Like, there's so many other benefits, like insulin sensitivity, like, yeah, recovery.
Yeah, and I do think that that probably is helping because I've never been able to stay at this low of a body weight. Like I've always sat up at like minimum like 145. That was my settling point, and now my settling point is like 130. So it's like a huge difference. So probably plays a part. I don't know, but
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. But I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences, highs and lows. I think it's really important to dive into everything because like social media glamorizes like the highs and like all of, yeah, the highs. It's like people, I don't know if it's like coming from like a place of fear with sharing like the low points or what, but
Yeah.
yeah, so many of us like have similar experiences and we don't even realize until we like talk about it. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
When someone does post something and they're like like Coach Kales, like she posted her I'm pulling out a prep post and like it was so honest and vulnerable. And
Yeah.
whenever I do see that, everyone fucks with it. Everyone is like, this is
Yes.
thank you for being honest.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
challenge. I want to be more open about that stuff on social media.
mhm,
I really commend anyone who chooses to share and just be real. You know, it's
totally.
yeah.
Yeah. It's hard,
Exactly.
but yeah, so many people can relate. And yeah, I think even going through these hardships and like negative experiences as mentally challenging and physically challenging as they are, everything's a lesson. And
Yeah,
so, now your next prep is going to be that much better because of everything you learned and went through in your
mm,
previous preps. And even if they were negative experiences, you can take those and turn them into positive experiences in your next preps.
Yeah.
exactly.
Honestly,
Yeah,
this
you come back stronger.
I would say it was still pretty positive.
It's still, yeah,
Yeah. I would say it was like the experience was still positive. There was just like things I learned, and I'm still proud of the physique I put on.
yeah, and still, like everything's a learning.
Mhm.
Roads, road
Exactly.
to pro whenever that happens, you know?
Well, for those of you who don't know, Karina has an incredible physique, like very, very strong physique. So
Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
when she does get back up there, you guys are better, or
Yeah.
you guys better be watching out for her because
She's gonna
yeah,
annihilate.
they're incoming. So much potential in the sport. So I'm excited. I'm grabbing my popcorn.
Me too.
Come back, we'll be crazy. So yeah,
Yeah,
maybe y'all will catch us all up on stage together next year.
exactly. Fingers crossed, guys.
Yeah, that would be so fun. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for coming on the podcast. It was so fun having you and
Thank you.
unpacking all of that. It's always nice to have another point of view. So if you guys have any questions for Karina, please leave them in the comments or DM us, and we'll chat to you next week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course.
Bye.
Have a good one, guys.
What a major yap session.
Wait, one more thing. Where can people
Oh yeah.
find you on Instagram or social media?
Only Instagram. My Instagram is Karina's Fit Life with an underscore.
Amazing. Okay, everyone, go follow our girl Karina on Instagram. Show her some love. And yeah, we'll chat to you next week. Bye.
Bye.